Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Don't be foolish. This is something that Srila Prabhupada said many times, and I've extracted from the Bhakti Vedanta Vedabase several quotes of Srila Prabhupada in which he says, don't be foolish. So I've printed these out, and gradually yesterday for the first time I started speaking on this, and I'd like to continue here, if you will kindly indulge me. Srila Prabhupada speaking on Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 3, in Toronto, Canada, on June the 20th, 1976. This will be speaking mostly, if not exclusively, to his disciples. You can bear this in mind. Srila Prabhupada said, don't be falsely proud, bewildered, ahankara vimurhatma kartahamiti manyate. Don't be foolish, person, by false egotism, that I am free, I can do whatever I like. Then you'll suffer and remain in this path of repetition of birth and death, which is the subject of chapter 9, text number 3. Does anyone remember what that verse is? You can say offhand. You know? I'm nodding your head like this. Anyone? Ashradadhana Purusha Dharmasyasya Parantapa Aprapya Mang Nevartande Mrityu Sangsara Vartmane. Krishna says that those who are not faithful on the path of devotional service do not attain me, but they come back to the repetition of birth and death. So Srila Prabhupada, speaking to his disciples, is warning them. And Krishna says that we may come to the path of dharma, but we may regress from that also and come back to the path of birth and death, which is actually many of these quotes, as Srila Prabhupada is saying, don't be foolish, is to his disciples, telling them that now you've taken up Krishna consciousness, you should stick to it, don't go away. Srila Prabhupada once said that those who do not take to Krishna consciousness, they are unfortunate. Those who take to Krishna consciousness, they are fortunate. Then who are the most unfortunate? Those who take to Krishna consciousness and again go away. Who have the greatest opportunity and out of foolishness. It could be described in various ways, but one simple word is foolishness. Give it up or don't stick to it. So this verse, ahankara vimurhatma kartahamiti manyate, another well-known verse, another verse which Srila Prabhupada often quoted, prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimurhatma kartahamiti manyate. Bewildered by the three modes of material nature, the foolish person, vimurhatma, very, very foolish person, out of ahankar, egotism, thinks kartaham, I am the doer, not knowing that he's under the control of the three modes of material nature. Now generally when we think of this verse or quote this verse, we think, well, that means everyone else. We're devotees and we're not bewildered by egoism. We know everything and we're devotees. And they're not devotees and they're all in Maya, but we're devotees. But Srila Prabhupada is warning his disciples that it's not just that by designating oneself as a devotee that one is free from Maya. Actually, Srila Prabhupada, in one letter, he wrote to one of his prominent disciples who had written a poem saying that he'd written a poem addressed to Krishna, and he sent it to Srila Prabhupada for approval. And in the poem, the devotee wrote something like this, that, "Oh Krishna, your devotee is calling out to you." And Srila Prabhupada wrote back and said that a devotee doesn't say, "I'm a devotee." Often people ask me something like, "Well, how long have you been a devotee?" And I'll say, "Well, I'm still trying." It's a very elevated position. Srila Prabhupada similarly said, when devotees asked him, "Well, what should we call newcomers to our movement?" They'll have some name like Michael or Anthony or something like that. We want to give some more spiritual name. So Srila Prabhupada said, you can call them Bhakta this, Bhakta so-and-so. But then he said, so then we think that, well, Bhakta, that means all the new ones who don't really know what they're doing. But Bhakta is actually a very high position. We know it's quite commonly said in Hindi at least, Bhakta Prahlad. In your local languages also you say like, Bhakta Dhruv. So this is very, very high level to be a Bhakta. So we may have false egoism also, thinking, well, I'm a devotee. But as soon as one thinks that I am already on a high platform, then immediately we come down to a lower platform. It's a great conundrum that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he also said this Sarvotam hoya apanake mane trinadham. This is it's a Bengali rendition of the part of the Trinadapi Sunichena verse. That Sarvotam, being the topmost, even being on the topmost platform, great devotee thinks, I am lower than the grass. So it's a great conundrum that if we try, okay, now my New Year is coming up. It's always coming up in India because there's so many New Years. There's the Western New Year and then the Kannada New Year and the Hindi New Year and the Tamil New Year. Anyway, New Year's resolution. Okay, I'm going to be humble. I'm going to be humble. And then after a few days, 2 days has gone by, well, I'm really humble. I'm doing pretty good. So we're caught by being the most humble. So the natural humility comes when one is situated in understanding that I am an eternal servant of Krishna. So if we think, even in devotional service, if we think, Kartaham, I'm doing it, I'm chanting so many rounds, I'm following Ekadashi, Nirjal every time. So certainly I'm entitled to go back to Godhead. Then we're reminded of the story of the Brahmana and the cobbler. Brahmana who thought, well, I'm doing all the pujas and I'm very pure and I suppose they're arranging the reception for me in Vaikuntha, special Kumbhabhishekam for me. But the cobbler, he thought, well, I'm just a cobbler. But anyway, Narayana is very great. You all know the story very well. So, even one can be very learned and be a great fool. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Maya Aprita Jnana. One is very learned, but his actual knowledge is covered by Maya. And Srila Prabhupada is warning here. Don't be foolish by false egotism that I am free, I can do whatever I like. In one sense, a devotee can do whatever he likes. He has no obligations to others. Devarshi bhutapta nrinang pitrinam na kinkaro nayam ranicha rajan. Sarvatmana yah sharanam sharanyam gato mukundam parihritya kartam. This verse, Srila Prabhupada, he quotes twice, maybe thrice in his Bhagavad Gita as it is commentary. In other words, he gives a lot of importance to it. That in this world we are all indebted to others. We're indebted to the demigods, to the great sages, past and present, to all kinds of other living beings. Of course, nowadays we have the horseless carriage, also known as the motor car. But previously, people used to travel by horse or by bullock cart. We're indebted to so many. We're indebted to the... even dogs and cats have some function to play in human society, apart from being pets. The dogs, watchdogs, cats, they help to keep the mice away who are going to, and the rats are otherwise going to eat all your stock of grains. So we're also indebted to them. We have some duty to them also. To relatives especially, to humankind in general. We have so many debts. But Krishna says that one means we're obliged to others. But Krishna says one who takes, well, actually, it's stated in Bhagavatam, one who takes full shelter of Mukunda, who is the proper person to take shelter of, he's relieved from all obligations. Otherwise, we could never get out of this world, because we always have obligations to others. Even if we think, I'll go to the forest and I won't have any dealings with anyone. Kisi se kuch lena dena nahi hoga. If I go to the forest, still we're breathing the air. That's Vayu Devata is providing the air. So we still have a debt to the Devas. We can't be. Then how can we be free? How do we get free? The answer is by the grace of Krishna. He can free us. He can tell Vayu, okay, let this one go. You're no longer, he's not indebted to you. The demigods themselves, they will appreciate and understand. So one becomes free from obligations to others by surrendering to Krishna, if we're actually fully surrendered. But at the same time, a pure devotee thinks that I am the servant of everyone, whereas the non-devotee thinks I am the master of everyone. Ishvaro ham aham bhogi. So devotee thinks he is the servant of everyone. There was one incident at Uppsala University in Sweden. I've met several devotees who were present there when Srila Prabhupada was there, and they all recall this vividly, this incident. Srila Prabhupada in Sweden, the most socialistic state on the earth, where it's considered sacred to think that everyone is equal in all respects, which of course is not the Vedic philosophy and which is not common sense anyway. Even they had a prime minister, but he had to, well, they still have, but he had to show, he would walk on the street like an ordinary person, just to show we're all the same. And he got shot dead. So, he would have been more sensible to have had a security posse with him. Anyway, Srila Prabhupada chose to speak to at the most ancient and prestigious university in Sweden on the Varnashram system. And he spoke about how society should be divided into first-class men, not men and women, first-class men, second-class men, third-class men, and fourth-class men. And he presented it in a very systematic way, as he always did. But of course, it's it's not very palatable to the minds of people who have accepted the socialistic idea. So at the end, the people, at least they politely listened to him, because Swedes are very polite. They'll anyway, I won't speak about Swedish character here too much. So at the end, someone asked Srila Prabhupada, so you think you're a first-class man? And Srila Prabhupada said, no, I am the lowest, because I am the servant of everyone. Spontaneous reply. It wasn't that he was thinking of how to say something clever, but spontaneously, in other words, although as the guru of the whole universe, although unfortunately most people in the universe didn't realize it, Srila Prabhupada took a commanding and authoritative position. So he could tell others, don't be foolish. He has to tell others, don't be foolish. But internally, he always felt that he is the servant of everyone. So this is the mood of a Vaishnava. But if we think that, well, now I'm a Vaishnava, so I'm free, I can do whatever I like, I'm not obliged to anyone, Krishna will protect me, so I can do what I like, then that's the material disease. The material disease is to think, I can do whatever I like, and no one can touch me. We like to be in that. If we're not in that position, we'd like to be in that position. Which is, I suppose, one reason why these computer games are very popular, in which you can take the role of not just world conquering, but conquering the universe, and all amazing creatures come out and you zap them or whatever with your, I don't know exactly because I've never actually seen a computer game at work, but something like that, the games of conquering the universe. It's all fantasy, make-believe. And a few people in this world, they can do so to some extent, even in this very life. They can be the head of a country, dictator of a country, but it's anischitam. Anischitam means it's, how do you say, not fixed. But actually it is fixed that you won't stay there very long. There was Saddam Hussein in Iraq, so powerful, and then he was killed. There was this Gaddafi in Libya, dictator, controller, he was killed. And some may last up to their death. Tito, you've probably never heard of him. He was in Yugoslavia. He survived. He wasn't assassinated. But where is he now? We don't know. He's not there. Whatever jiva was in that body is not the head of a country anymore. Or by the grace of the material energy, in another way one may become the leader also. This idea, I'm the boss, I'm in control. Someone may have a little punya so that they can take the position of a leader, but they may also have some papa mixed with that. So in the group of dogs running around in the street at night, they're all running 10, 12 dogs, and one of them is the top dog. The other dogs, they're afraid of that one. Or you see the cows. There's always the queen. She's in charge. Is it Tejas Prabhu, you know about cows? There's always the one who, she's the best. Everyone knows. She doesn't go at the front. But everyone knows she's the top one. So these are games, little games, children's games. Unfortunately, when people become adults, they don't become any more intelligent unless they're trained in spiritual knowledge. Children play games of computer games. They go on playing them when they grow up, or they may not just do it in some computer, but they may do it with real people. It's sitting in some army headquarters zapping people on some other part of the world and just blowing them to pieces. What a feeling that must be. Got this computer program and I'm doing this and latest news. What's the latest score? We killed 23 terrorists. They're all terrorists. Whoever we killed, they're terrorists. So this feeling, I'm in charge, I'm the boss, I can do what I like. This is the illusion which binds us in this material world. Or even if we're not in charge, there's the hope in future. In future I will do. Even if we accept that there is reincarnation, we may think, well, I didn't make it this life, but next life. There's always some hope. Srila Prabhupada in Japan, meeting the executives of the Dai Nippon printing company. They had a round table, they were meeting to discuss the price of the books that Srila Prabhupada would print with them. So they all gave their visiting card, their business card. And after the negotiations were over, they left one junior executive to look after Srila Prabhupada and his party. So Srila Prabhupada immediately began preaching to him by saying to him, what is your goal of life? And in reply, the junior executive gathered all the business cards that were put on the table and put them in order with the head of the company's card on top and his own card which was there at the bottom, because that was the order. He put first of all the president, the vice president, the second vice president, and then his was at the bottom. And then he took his card from the bottom and slapped it on the top. That is my goal of life. So it's a great illusion. Because, why is that? Because constitutionally, we are servants. We can never be greater than Krishna. Actually, there is one way to be greater than Krishna. But if we think, I shall be greater, that one way is by love of Krishna. Krishna becomes subordinate. But if we think that I shall do bhakti and I shall have Krishna bow down to me, then it's not bhakti. That's why the Mayavadis, for all they can see, this material world is miserable. This idea of being happy in this material world is all illusory. So they have this insight, but they still can't accept that I should be a servant of Krishna. So they deny Krishna's superiority, or even if they orally say that yes, Krishna is supreme, but actually they maintain what is envy of Krishna, that they do not want to surrender to Krishna. Ahankara vimurhatma, Krishna says. Bewildered by egoism, people think that I am the doer. But Krishna, Krishna himself says, he is the doer. In the Chaturvanyang Maya Shrishtam, Guna Karma Vibhagashaha. Then what's the next line? Tasya Kartaram Apimam. I organize this. I am the real doer. Aham hi sarva yagyanam bhukta cha prabhurevacha. Krishna is the Lord and the enjoyer of all. Krishna is supreme. And then we move avajananti mang mudha manushingtanam ashritam. It's all linked together. People who do not accept Krishna's superiority, they are mudha, fools, rascals. And from that, from not accepting that Krishna is the controller, then they think, I am the controller. So it's all linked together. One becomes a mudha by not accepting Krishna as supreme, and then he thinks, I am the supreme, why didn't everyone recognize it? Obviously, I'm special. What's wrong with everybody? They're all in Maya. They didn't recognize I'm special. It's all linked together. We'll find in Bhagavad Gita, many words are used again and again and again. But it's not that Krishna is being repetitive, but they're just different nuance. He's just showing the whole position from different perspectives. Some of the words we find in Gita again and again. Prakriti, Purusha, then Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, Guna, Dharma, Atma, Prabhu, Bhokta, Bhogi, all these words. Yoga, Dharma, these words come again and again and again. Atma, did I say Atma? That word, of course, comes again and again. Deha. So all these points are explained by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, but getting free from this ahankar, thinking I am the doer. It may be that we've even taken to devotional service, but this mentality comes with us. Actually, when we take to devotional service, it's supposed to be Diksha Kale Bhakta Kare Ata Shamarpan. At the time of initiation, it means we're supposed to surrender to Krishna. But what actually happens is it's a gradual process. That's accepted. That's why Ado Shradhatata Sadhu Sangha Atha Bhajana Kriya. It's a gradual process. So it's understood that it's not that immediately when we take the devotional service, we become fully Krishna conscious and give up all attachments to this material world. Which is why Srila Prabhupada, speaking to his disciples in 1976, when several of them may have been already hearing from him for several years, he's still stating, don't be foolish. Don't think, I am the doer, I am free, I can do whatever I like. Don't think, well, now I've taken devotional service, so I'm not obliged to anyone. Well, in one sense we're not obliged to anyone, but we are obliged to Krishna. And we're obliged, but in a different way. They're not obligations that bind us to this material world, but we're bound to other living beings inasmuch as we're supposed to see them in relationship to Krishna. And then Advaishta Sarva Bhutanam Maitra Karuna Evacha. We're supposed to behave without envy of any living being, with friendship and compassion. Otherwise, if we only worship Krishna, we think, yes, there's Krishna and there's me, and that's all. Then that is on the neophyte platform. Archayameva haraye pujasya shradhaye hatena tad bhakteshu chanyeshu sabhakta prakrita smitaha. The description of the prakrita bhakta, or neophyte devotee, is that he worships Krishna very faithfully, but he has no feelings for or regard for other devotees or for any other living beings. So that term is used, prakrita, which it's an unusual, it may seem unusual because a devotee is aprakrita. Prakrita means on the material platform, and devotee should be beyond the material platform. That Mahatmanas tumang pata daiving prakriti mahashritaha. Those who are surrendered to Krishna, they're under the protection of the divine energy, not the material energy, because bhajantyananya manaso gyatva bhutadim avyayam. Understanding Krishna to be transcendental to this world, such persons worship him ananyat, with undeviating, unflickering, just only Krishna, ananya, only on Krishna. But there may be others who are worshipping Krishna, but it's not ananya, because they're keeping their own egoism. Full worship of Krishna, bhajantya nanya manaso, worshipping Krishna fully, undivided, but that means to see Krishna. Krishna is not alone. Krishna is with his energies, his devotees. So it doesn't mean just me and Krishna. But to worship Krishna undeviatingly means to recognize there are others also. who are also parts and parcels of Krishna, who are also dear to Krishna. And we should not neglect them or try to, in the name of devotional service, to dominate them, the same disease, to try to dominate others. And again, it's a conundrum, because in devotional service, someone has to take the position of guiding others. But then if this feeling of mastership, prabhutva, or in Bengali that's called Thakurali, if thinking I'm the boss here, everyone should obey me. If that mood comes, instead of thinking that I am the servant of the Vaishnavas, then we should listen to what Srila Prabhupada says. Don't be falsely proud, bewildered. Ahankara vimudhat ma kartahamiti manyate. Don't be foolish person by false egotism. That I am free, I can do whatever I like. Then you'll suffer and remain in this path of repetition of birth and death. So, Hare Krishna. I'm going to finish there because I'm supposed to finish at 8:45. So, is there any question, please? Yes, please. What is the difference between a Brahmavadi and a Mayavadi? It's got absolutely nothing to do with this class. It's a good question, but it's got nothing to do with the class. Is there any question on the subject of the class? Please. I mean, I did mention Mayavadis, but it's not really on the subject of the... We came to know that we should not be foolish. Okay, that's the beginning of not being foolish, is to understand that we shouldn't be foolish. That's a fact. That's a fact, because most people don't realize that they're foolish. How to not be foolish? Listen to Prabhupada. He'll tell you, don't be foolish. And he'll tell you what it means to be intelligent and what it means to be unintelligent. Intelligent means, the beginnings of intelligence means that we should understand who we are and what we're supposed to be doing. Just like if I ask someone, what's your job? What do you do? I'm a structural engineer. So what do you do? I don't know. I'm a heart surgeon. How do you operate on hearts? Well, I don't know. You want to go for an operation with a heart surgeon like that? Not very encouraging, is it? So we should know who we are and what we're supposed to do, and then do it. Ke ami kene amai jare tapatroy. This Sanatana Goswami asked Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who am I and why are the three modes of material nature making me suffer? Why? So the beginning of intelligence is to ask this kind of question. Atato Brahma Jignasa. To inquire into the nature of ultimate reality. Without that, then parabhavastavad abodhajata yavanya jignasata atmatattvam. As long as we do not inquire into the nature of atmatattva, who am I? What is the ultimate? Who is the ultimate Atma? Then abodhajata, we're born foolish and we remain foolish. And we're defeated means that the human life is meant for becoming free from birth and death. But we lose that opportunity. About Nityananda Prabhu, Lochanda sings. What is that? Heno avatar ja rati nahi bhelo, Lochan bole shai papi elo or gelo. Speaking about Nityananda Prabhu, Lochanda says that such an avatar who's so merciful, such a person who has no feeling for him, what can we say about them? Elo or gelo. They came and they left. Means they born and they died. Their whole life is a complete zero. That's all. Like on this ECG scan. This flat means dead. So nothing. But what do you mean? He was a great industrialist and founded so many companies, and his obituary was in all the papers when he died, but without Krishna consciousness, zero, meaningless, unintelligent. In the beginning of Shukadev's Goswami's instructions, beginning of second canto, we'll find Munaya Sadhu Prishta. No, that's in the first canto. It's the same thing in the beginning of this second canto. Sutta Goswami said to Shonaka Rishi, good questions. And then Shukadev also said to Variyanesha Te Prashna. Shukadev also said to Parikshit Maharaj, good question. And he went on to describe all the stupid people who don't ask good questions. They are nidraya hriyate naktam vyavayena chavavayaha. Divacharte arajan kutumba bharanenava. Shrota vyadini rajendra nrinang santi sahasrashaha. Apashyatang atmatatam griheshu grihamedim. People don't ask proper questions. What are they doing? They're discussing so many things, but they never discuss about Atma Tattva. They see all around them, people are living and dying, but they never ask, what is our existential position? They're busy daytime working hard to support their family, and at night in sex and sleeping. This is foolishness. So if we hear Srila Prabhupada and study his books, we should become non-foolish. But as Prabhupada says to his disciples here, don't be foolish. These are devotees who have been hearing him for years, reading his books, and he's telling them don't be... So we need someone also. We may think, oh, well, I read all the books so many times, I can come up so many shlokas, but we may still be foolish. It's good to have someone to tell us, don't be foolish. It's, of course, in polite society, we don't say things like that. But if we simply want to be polite, then we may be polite life after life. But sometime we have to accept someone coming to us and saying, you damn fool rascal number one. And wake us up. Don't be foolish. Foolishness, we can get out of that when we're prepared to hear what we need to hear instead of what we like to hear. And prepared to understand that even though like Sanatana Goswami, big scholar, prepared to submit himself. He submitted himself. Ke ami amai jare tapatrai. What's the next line? Ehana hijani? Something like, I don't know this. Okay, so we'll stop now, and then there'll be prasadam served to everyone, so I'm told, and then at least I'm going off to another program, and you're all welcome to come also.